Continuing with our discussion about risk management, loss of revenue is the main consequence of a crisis. Therefore, it does become protecting revenue or using the opportunities that a crisis creates is a very important element, or should be a very important element of a revenue manager's job. As you can see from this picture, you probably know what this picture is showing you. This is the Costa Concordia lying in the water, as it did for a number of months. And this, of course, was a crisis for the cruise ship company, and this had a major impact, of course, on shareholder value. So the way we can handle a crisis, of course, a crisis itself can have a negative impact on shareholder value, but the way we handle it can also minimize that negative impact. Here we see the 4 stages of crisis management. We have prevention, preparedness, response and recovery. And here you see the focus and priorities in a crisis in a hotel. So we might be thinking, for example, of our safety, of our guests and our staff, security of the building itself. We might be thinking about taking care of our valuable resources, such as the linen, for example, and the silverware. And we may also need to think about guest needs. In terms of the brand, we might think about pricing, supply and demand, cancellation policies. During a crisis, when people can't come to our hotel, for example, during the ash cloud event, because of really major events around the world, should we really still be applying our cancellation policies? After the 9/11 disaster, a number of corporate groups around the world, in hotels around the world, cancelled just because they didn't have the morale to actually go and do their events in the hotels. In this case, hotels had to decide, do we still charge them even though they don't come and have their event in our hotel? We can, because we have a contract, but should we, and what might the impact of this be on our long-term revenue? So here we see a nice slide that shows the value of a crisis management plan and how this can have an impact on our long-term profit. Pause the slide and have a look at that, please. So organizations need to manage the entire crisis management cycle, starting from signal detection. Now, signal detection is a science of its own, and that's something that's going to be covered in another Fluful online module, which is going to be entirely focused on risk management and will be delivered by Alex Paraskeva. So watch out for that one. So signal detection gives us indicators that a crisis is about to occur. And then, of course, we have the other stages, the last stage being learning from the crisis and then redesigning our processes so that we're better prepared for the next time something similar occurs. So why do we need to manage risks? Well, here we can see from this nice picture, we need to think about safety to people, saving the company's assets, the business processes, stakeholders' interests, and of course the company's reputation. So we've got to think about our reputation in terms of how we behave towards consumers during a crisis, how we take care of those consumers and, of course, our staff during a crisis, but also how do we identify potential revenue opportunities that might emerge from a crisis. And if we can put those crisis management steps in place, we'll be prepared and be able to, of course, reap the rich rewards that will come from this kind of strategy. Here we can see the risk management framework. Again, I'm not going to go into detail because that will be covered on the next Fluful module that should be starting in around June this year. And here we see risk treatment strategies. If you want to go and read a little bit about risk management on your own, you can go and Google the AMAT approach. That's avoidance, mitigation, acceptance and transfer. And there's a whole, I've written a book chapter on this theme, and I'm going to post an extract to that underneath this video as well. So do take advantage of this because it will only be available for a very short time. Because of course it's a book chapter and ideally you're going to go and buy the book itself, which will also give you a link to. So, coming back to kind of doing a summary of what we've covered so far, we talked about overbooking. We talked about the fact that what we do has to be fair to customers, and we also know that we want to generate customer advocates because those advocates are going to defend us and are going to create lots of positive word-of-mouth advertising. So we have to think about strategies. Our revenue management strategies should actually be thinking about, okay, how can we create advocates? How can we use overbooking to our advantage that actually maybe increases those feelings of loyalty that customers have for us? And I'm posting an article as well on overbooking with some examples of overbooking scenarios that created positive feelings of loyalty. And I'd like you to post your examples too, please, on the forum this week. So post your experience, what you've seen in terms of where overbooking has created positive impact. Also, I'd like you to think about risk management, where there was a crisis scenario, what happened, and what were the possible revenue opportunities that emerged from that may or may not be taken advantage of. So risk management is important. We also can think about trying to encourage positive behavior by taking a social revenue management approach and thinking about products that we can create to also encourage the amount of people or the amount of social good that people are doing. Of course, all of this needs more research, but hopefully it's getting some ideas in your mind, and hopefully you'll be posting some experiences and ideas that you have about how maybe we can do social revenue management, how maybe we can improve our overbooking strategies, or how we can integrate risk management and revenue management in order to be assured of long-term profit increases. Here is just a mind map that was created by Liang when she was doing her paper on Can Overbooking Be Positive? And we can see all of the different reading that she did and all of the different authors that she linked to in order to generate that paper, which I've posted to you a link to, of course, on this week's materials. So I'd like us to just now, at the end of this recording, I'd like you to think about and look at some case studies. All right, this is the second from last video. So I'd like you to send you away now with some work to do, and I want you to think about social enterprises in tourism and how these can have an impact on the revenue of tourism businesses, but also have a positive impact on society. So here we have a link which was posted in your readings this week to this article by Trent Hunter. So I'd like you to read that. Then I'd like you to go and have a look at a few websites of a few tourism companies. The first one that I'd like you to look at is SkiStar. And I'd like you to look at the different products offered by SkiStar, and I'd like you to think about how they maximize their long-term revenue. Then I'd like you to look at the Adventure Alternative as a second case study and look at how they do things and think about how the way they do things has an impact on the willingness to pay of customers. Case study number 3 is the same, similar. Look at what this resort does, how they do it, and how this has a positive impact on willingness to pay in the long term. Why are customers happy and willing to pay more for this kind of resort when there's no perhaps electricity, there's no air conditioning, there's no internet, and there's none of those mod cons that you might expect in a 5-star resort? The fourth case study, Peru for Less, I'd like you to look at that and think about how could they use social enterprise and social entrepreneurship philosophies in order to build more long-term revenue and profit for their business. Case study number 5 is Gap Adventures. I also want you to look at the way they do things and think about how this generates loyalty and satisfaction and long-term revenue and profit for the business. Think about their commercial strategies and their philosophies, and think about how it all fits together to make this such a successful tourism business. Okay, so I'd like you to go away and look at those companies and then come back for the last video and we'll have a little bit of a discussion about what you found there. Thank you.